Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session 2 on day 2 of the South Asia Teaching English Online Conference 2025. I am Soma, a freelance consultant with the British Council in Nepal, and I'll be the host of this session. I hope some of you were able to join the panel discussion just happened before. In that panel discussion, the panelists from South Asia, they could just describe about the different insightful strategies where that can be implemented in language teaching, drawing on real classroom context. So as we get started, please feel free to write down hi in the chat and let us know where you are joining us from. You can also kindly mention if you are a teacher or teacher educator. For your kind information, this session is also being recorded and delivered via Zoom and is also live streamed on British Council's Teaching English Asia Facebook. Following with the theme of using 21st century competencies in ELT, I'm very delighted to welcome you all in this session on future-ready classrooms, cultivating global citizenships through English. I'm very excited to see the audiences joining us from South Asia and beyond. There are lots of hi, and they are mentioning the country's name. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Now, let me show the sessions of today. You can see in the screen, there are 3 sessions lined up, and this is the session 2. So before I just hand over the session to the speaker, let me just remind you a few of the housekeeping notes. Please use the chat for the comments and Q&As to just ask the question to our speaker. An editable PDF certificate is available for all the participants. For that, you'll get the link at the end. Similarly, you'll also, if you have missed any sessions, you'll get the recordings of the webinar, which will be posted on Teaching English Asia British Council page. For the safeguarding reminder, I'll ask everyone to be polite and respectful. Kindly keep the comments only focused to the session, and we do not encourage to express your personal opinions that can harm anybody. Please do not post any politically sensitive or any commercial links. During the webinar, to report to any concern, you can just write to safeguarding@britishcouncil.org. So now I just want to, without delaying, I just want to invite our speaker of this session, Sherly Hephzibah. So Sherly. Hi,
Hi.
Sherly.
Hi, Soma.
So very good to be here.
Yes,
How are you?
absolutely. I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Soma?
Yeah, I'm also very good. So she's already here, and I just want to share a few brief information about Sherly. Sherly is an English educator with rich experience in teaching Cambridge IGCSE. She also integrates language with empathy, critical thinking, and real-world connection in her projects. Likewise, she has been empowering learners to use language for both academic success and meaningful social impact. So I don't want to take much time, Sherly, now. I'll be here in the background, and for anything if you need, I'll be back in Q&As with the audience. So over to you, Sherly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Soma, for the lovely introduction. And hello, everybody. It's really nice to meet you all. I can already see the chat buzzing. So it's really nice to have such interactive people in the session as well. As Soma introduced me, I have been in teaching for almost a year. I started off as a trainer and then I moved to school teaching as such. And then one day I got introduced to sustainable development goals, and then I thought, why not connect it to the English language? And that is what is bringing me to today's webinar. I'll quickly put up my screen. I hope you all can see it. Soma, can you see the screen? Can you just keep me informed on that?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Soma. So it's really nice to meet you all here today for the South Asia Teaching English online conference. And my topic for today's webinar is Future Ready Classroom, Cultivating Global Citizenship through English. So, in this webinar, we are going to be talking about why global citizenship matters in the first place in an English classroom and how sustainable development goals are part of the bigger picture. We're also going to look into some practical ideas for integrating global goals into our LSRWs, and we will look into some quick activities that will spark global thinking and empathy. Before we go into the webinar aspect, what is global citizenship? Now, for me, global citizenship is the understanding that we have that we are a part of this bigger world and we have responsibilities to each other and also towards the planet, which means we should be having awareness of global issues and cultural diversity. We should have empathy and respect for different perspectives. And we should be taking action to make the world a far more better place to be fair, inclusive, and sustainable. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to look into some global citizenship inside an English classroom. So, I'm going to be giving you some classroom scenarios, and you are going to tell me which core value is at play. Let's see. Some students are co writing a dialogue and they are taking turns to contribute, like they are writing lines by giving chances to one another. Which core value do you think is at play? Let me quickly check the chat for messages. All right, I see a few people pointing out C as the answer. While it does tap all the attributes, since they are writing, taking turns, they are being interdependent on each other. And that means interdependence is the answer. Let's quickly move on to the next scenario. A learner is noticing a classmate struggling with language game and is offering to practice together at school. Which core value do you think is at play? Yes, a lot of people in the chat are picking out B, empathy. And yes, the student is feeling empathy towards the other, and that is why they're working out. The next one, a student is responding to a comprehension question by going into the character's point of view and they are answering it. What do you think would be the answer? A lot of A's in the chat box. Yes, when I say POV, it is the perspective. Students are creating a classroom norm for respectful language use. Now, what do you think this core value is? A lot of people are giving me B in the answer. And yes, the answer is responsibility, because it is it is responsibility of the students to have responsible communication, respectful communication as well. A learner is choosing their own creative writing and they are even including an inspiring message to the readers. What do you think this is? A lot of people are saying it could be voice. Yes, they are having their own voice. We also have some other values like justice, belonging, agency, awareness, and transformation. Now, what I want you to do is, now we've discussed these core values, right? I want you to think about which value is the most important one for your students. Let me tell you, there's no right or wrong answer. You are just going to tell me what, from your perspective, which is more important for your students. Okay, a lot of people are saying voice is important in the chat. Okay, some of you are saying agency is important. I'm seeing a lot of, okay, one person has said all are important. I would absolutely agree with that. Responsibility, I am not able to read the chat box. Trust me, that many messages are in the chat. Absolutely true. From each perspective, all of these values are important, right? Now, all these values put together becomes the heart of global citizenship, the global citizenship that we are discussing today. Now, these values are not just important individually, but then they are also a part of a global set of values that are adopted by a lot of countries. Which, what is it called? Any guesses in the chat? Okay, oh, right. I see a lot of people who have typed in SDGs, and yes, the answer is Sustainable Development Goals. Now, what are Sustainable Development Goals? In the year 2015, the United Nations decided that we will come up with 17 goals that will help us make the world a better place. And the target year is 2030. And that is what we call Sustainable Development Goals, also known as SDGs. Now, these are aimed to end poverty, protect the planet, and also make the world a better place. And this target is for 2030. Now, why should we include sustainable development goals in our English classes? Because they spark meaningful conversation, they connect language to life, they also develop empathy, curiosity, and action. Just like how I told you, these core values help our students to become better citizens, better global citizens, and these SDGs are helping us out to make the lessons easy, to frame the lessons easy, and that is why SDGs are going to be very helpful. Now, by doing all of this, we are building global competence in English language teaching. And by that way, we empower our students to make sense of the world one word at a time, or I should say, one activity at a time. Now, I'm going to be taking you all through some activities that we can try out in our classroom. They are going to be LSRW tapped. So, let me quickly take you through that. The first one being listening activity. So what we can do is for pre-primary students, we can do something called the sound walk story. We can play an audio soundscape. It could be of a market, it could be of a forest, it could be of a school. And we can ask the students to guess what might be happening or guess what place that could be. By doing this, the students will have their imagination enhanced and they will also have a global awareness of setting based context. Like if it's a market, they will see a lot of people talking about products. They will hear that and they will be able to identify that it's a market. Right? For primary, we can do something called match the message. Like we can play some short messages. These messages coming down to either one of these three magic words. It could be thank you, sorry, or welcome, and we can help ask them to connect that to the situation. Like for example, if the statement goes like, I'm very happy that you are spending time with me, now that means they are thankful, so the magic word would be thank you. So you can do something like that. For this will help the students to have an awareness of respectful communication, and it will also help them to understand why these three magic words are important in a communication. For lower secondary, we can do something called the soundtrack for a cause. We can play excerpts of speeches or songs that are related to global issues and ask them to discuss about what the message is. Now, say for example, we have a speech that is talking about dreams of a person and why they should feel included. Then the students will discuss about how they should also have their own voice, they should be respected, and they should respect others as well. By doing this, this activity will link listening to transformation and justice. For secondary, we can do something called the global news debrief. We can give them a short news report or an excerpt and ask the students about how this is affecting different people. By doing this, it will promote justice and global awareness amidst our students. Now is your time to pick which out of these activities were your favorite and which one are you most excited to try in your classroom. We have all the four choices and all right. Some of you are interested in trying out all. All right. Wonderful. 3 and 4. Amazing. Thank you. Now, moving forward, we will go to the next attribute, which is the speaking activities for our students. For pre-primary, we can do something called the kind word circle. We can make the students stand together in a circle and then we can ask one child to pass on a positive statement about the person standing next to him or her. One kind thing to a peer, like I like your hair, or I like how you smile, you are my friend. It could be very basic statements because they are pre-primary kids. And if you want to implement this for secondary students, you can ask them to talk about their values. Like, I like how you respect people, I like how you include everyone in a conversation. So this is applicable for any age group as well. We just have to modify it a little bit here and there. And this will develop belonging and responsibility in communication for the students. For primary students, we can do something called if I were their situation. This can be used as a picture prompt or as a verbal prompt as well. We can give a classroom situation to the students and ask them how they will respond. We will ask them to talk about it. Like say your friend drops their pencil. How would you react? like they probably would say that they will help the friend to pick it up, and they will talk about how they will be helpful. We can give them more situations like this where we encourage the students to be mindful, respectful, and this will develop responsibility and empathy through these simple scenarios. For lower secondary, we can do something called the story circle. Like this one, the topic is a time I helped. So each student will share a personal story of either them helping others or them being helped. You can change the topic to anything you find relevant to your batch of students. Like, say, for example, the time I saved electricity, the time I made sure I was a responsible consumer. You can think in those terms, and this will strengthen empathy and transformation through storytelling. They will present it as a story, so speaking check, and they will also add value to the story, so global citizenship is also check. Now, for secondary students, we can do something called voice for change speeches. Now, students can prepare short speech on a topic they care about, and this will promote justice and global awareness. Like the topic could be as simple as responsible energy consumption or being helpful. It could be anything. Now, you can also try out something else as well. While sometimes you can give them time to prepare at home and then come and present their speech. You can also, as they improve their speaking skill, you can also try out impromptu speaking activities, like give them the topic 10 minutes ahead and then ask them to talk about it as well. Now, you can choose to keep your difficulty range depending on your students, because that will be more appropriate. Now, let's quickly discuss on the top picks. Which speaking activity are you most excited to try for your set of students? All right, great. I see a lot of alls and one, two, and three. Great. Now let's quickly move on to the next segment, which is reading activities for cultivating global citizenship. So in pre-primary category, we can do something called read aloud with emotions. Now the teacher can read a very simple story, like for example, the rainbow fish, and then they can ask the students about how they think the character is feeling, what emotions are being expressed in the story. Now, when we do this, it will build empathy and emotional awareness through listening and prediction activity, right? So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to quickly read out a story for you, and you are going to tell me what emotion is being tapped here. Rainbow Fish had shiny, glittery scales. He smiled and said, I am the most beautiful fish. How does he feel? What emotion do you think is put up here? Happy, excited, proud. Yes. So you can see that a lot of emotions are being tapped here, right? So little blue fish came close. He asked, can I have one shiny scale, please? Rainbow fish shouted, no, they are mine. Which character, which emotion do you think is being angry? Yes, I see a lot of chat that says angry, negative, aggressive. Yes, absolutely correct. Now, no one played with the rainbow fish. He looked around and whispered, why is everyone gone? I can see people dropping in the chat saying that the fish is feeling lonely or sad. Absolutely correct. Now, we can try out these kind of activities which will make our students understand emotions even at a pre-primary level. I hope you all can see my screen back again. And we will move on to the next grade level, which is primary, where we can do activity called values detective. Students underline words or actions in a short passage that shows value like respect, courage, or fairness. You can give them a passage or a story, and students can underline words and actions that represent them. This will promote awareness and empathy in their textual reading. For lower secondary, we can do something called the cultural symbol scavenger hunt. Like they can be given with a folk tale or a folklore or a global story, and students will have to search for references to customs, values, or symbols and share what they have learnt as well. Now, what this will do is they will be exposed to different cultures, and they will learn to appreciate different cultures, and they will also develop a sense of belonging where they feel happy and proud of who they are as well. Now, for secondary, we can do something called compare the voices task, where students compare how two authors discuss the same issue. Like, for example, the topic can be water scarcity, and one speaker can talk about how, because of there's no water, there is no farming happening in their place, and another writer can talk about how the women in the family are walking miles to fetch water. Now, these are two different sides, two different possibilities of water scarcity and the reactions that could come through. When they compare these two scenarios, then they will understand different voices, they will understand justice, and they will also develop analytical thinking. Now, let's quickly go on to the topic. We discussed four activities for reading, and which one do you think you would want to try in your class? All right, I see a lot of people saying 1, 2, and 3. And a few of you would want to try 4, which is compare the voices task. Amazing. Now let's quickly move on to the writing activities that fall in alignment for global citizenship. Pre-primary. Now we call this kindness cloud. What we have to do is the activity is very, very simple. Children can be given with cloud cutouts. Now I call it kindness cloud because my cutouts look like clouds. You can call it kindness ice cream. You can call it however you want. And children can trace or copy words like thank you, hug, or help. All these positive words. This will also develop their vocabulary range and will also help them with their basics of writing. Now, this will introduce our students to empathy and caring vocabulary as well. Now, with regards to the primary compartment, we have something called If I Were Letter. Now, what the students can do is students can write a letter pretending to be a tree or an ocean or maybe an animal. Now, when they are writing in the perspective of a tree or an ocean or an animal for that matter, they will think about what happens to a tree, what happens to an ocean, or what happens to an animal in that case. And this will help them to look at things from a different perspective. It will help them have empathy, it will help them voice out their perspectives, and this will enhance their writing style as well because we're already introducing letter writing. Again, as I always tell you, writing, check. Global citizenship is also checked. Now, moving on to the lower secondary compartment, we can write something called the Dear Future Me letter. Now, you can break this into two separate activities. Part one being write to their own future self about what kind of a world they want to live in. Like they will probably talk about how they want to live in a world which has a lot of resources, where everybody is happy, there is no pressure, and all of that. Now, you can follow it up with another activity, which is the part two of the same activity, where they will write about what role they can play in shaping the world that they want. Now, here, while the first part is talking about what they want, it will help them imagine a future. The second part will talk more about how they should act, what they should do to have a world that they actually want to have, right? So by doing this, it builds agency for the students, and it also transforms their thought process because they will be reflecting, they will be looking at what needs to be done, right? So this will be very helpful in bringing up global citizens. When we're talking about the secondary compartment, we can do something called monologue of the marginalized. What they can do is they can write some dramatic monologues from the perspective of a silenced or underrepresented voice. It could be anything. It could be from the perspective of climate change. It could be from the perspective of awareness of voice. You can think in all of these terms and you can present it through, and this will help the students to build justice, empathy, and also voice. Now let's quickly discuss about your topic. Which writing activity would you be very excited to try in your class? We have, okay, we have kindness. A lot of you all want to try Dear Future Me letter. All right, all four letter. Wonderful. All right. Now, when we're talking about our role as English educators, it's very, very important that we are aware that we don't just teach language to our students, but then we also teach students to think critically, to express ideas, and also to understand perspectives, tell their stories and also others, and also listen to others. Like we make them think critically when we're making them write essays or write stories or write letters. We also went through these writing and speaking activities. We help them to express their ideas, we help them understand perspectives, and we also through the listening activities we allow them to listen to others. And this is the core of global citizenship. Our teaching toolkit is very simple. By teaching English, we are teaching them life skills. We equip our students to communicate, and by communications, we help our students to speak up, to negotiate, and to persuade others. And we equip our students with reflective skills, and by that way, they are pausing, processing, and they're also understanding different perspectives. We are helping our students to be narrative, to speak up, and that means they are going to shape stories that connect, heal, and also inspire a lot of people. Now, balancing English skill and global thinking, some people think that it could be very hard, but let me tell you, it's not about adding more, it's just about framing differently. Like the activities are still going to be the same, we're going to be continuing doing whatever we are doing, we're just going to frame it a little bit differently. Because people, a lot of people, as I told you, the myth is that global citizenship needs extra time, new lessons, a lot of efforts. But again, let me tell you, the reality is very, very simple. We can embed these values and global themes into what we are already teaching, what we already are doing. We just need a little bit of tweak here and there. Now, as I told you, it's just a little bit of textbook reframing, and I'm going to give you some examples for that as well. Like, say, for example, for a primary compartment, we have a basic activity that says write 5 sentences about your home. They are going to practice their writing. What we can do to integrate global citizenship is that we can ask them to describe how you can make your home kinder to others of the planet. While in the previous prompt, they will probably only talk about description like my house looks like this, my house looks like that. The second prompt is slowly putting in the aspect of global citizenship where they are thinking about how the house can be more kinder. Like they can talk about how they would want to help their parents, how they would want to help their mother helping out at home, how they would want to be respectful towards their parents. Now, all of these come into the picture where slowly global citizenship is integrated into a basic English writing task. Like for our middle school, for example, the textbook passage could be about daily routine, but then we can quickly convert it into routines across countries. Now, what the students will do is they will compare and reflect about these routines. Like, for example, how does my school morning routine look like? And how does the morning routine look like in another country? Probably United Kingdom or USA or Bangladesh. It could be any specific place. And we can talk about how this is different across different places, and students will learn to compare and discuss the same. For secondary, if the task is about punctuation, we can give them some youth blogs or letters about refugees. We can just put in some errors, and then the students can punctuate, correct the errors, and fix it up. Like I told you, it's very simple. The task remains the same, the target remains the same. We're just going to blend it a little bit, make a little bit of changes and edits here and there to make sure that they are reaching the global citizenship rubrics. Now, a few more examples for us to reframe regular task with global thinking. Now, this skill is, let's say, grammar, conditionals. We're talking about conditionals. The traditional prompt would be to say, if I had a pet dinosaur, or even if I had a pet. Now, instead of integrating conditionals with the traditional prompts or simple prompts, we can just reframe them with global thinking. If I could solve one world problem, I would. Now, this will not only integrate conditionals into their learning, but then it will also allow the students to think in terms of how can I be a better person? How can I contribute to solving world problems? What can I do? The little changes that I can do in my lifestyle to make sure that the world is a better place. So global thinking is easily integrated into the teaching session. For comprehension, like we have a comprehension, the reading comprehension is done. Instead of asking questions like what did the character do, we can ask questions like did the character make a fair choice, why or why not. You can even include questions that goes on to say why do you think the character did whatever the character did in that story. Now by doing this, by giving out these kind of prompts, the students will be able to think from the shoes of the character. Perspective is tapped, voice is tapped, and they are also trying to respect everything. Now when we try to do this, this makes our students think in terms of how they are communicating with another person. Like in their real life also, they will start thinking about why is my friend doing like this, or what can I do to make my friend feel better. You can do all of this by just reframing one simple prompt, and that's all it takes. Let's say, for example, for writing, the question, the prompt is describe your bedroom. Just like how I said, it's going to be very simple, like they will talk about how the bedroom looks like. So we can rather change it into a prompt that says describe a safe and happy space for someone without a home. Now, this is when the children will start thinking about how people are living without a home and what can be done to make sure that they have a roof above their head. Easily global thinking put in into a simple English writing prompt. And now this will stick with the kid as the child grows up, and they will always be mindful of what they are doing, even in the littlest thing that they do in their life. With regards to speaking, when the usual prompt goes on, like what's your favorite festival, we can ask the students to talk about a celebration in their culture and also explain about how it promotes unity, gratitude, or peace. Like they can probably in the south of India, we celebrate a festival called Pongal. Right now, this is about thanking people, thanking the farmers, thanking all the facilities that we have to put food on our plate. Now, when our student is talking about it, they will also talk about what is the purpose of the festival instead of just the celebration. They will talk about what is the purpose of the festival, how people are coming together, and how does it contribute towards peace in the family. Now, as a step forward, right after they talk about their favorite festival, like how their festival is integrating unity, gratitude, and peace, they can move on to talk about what other festivals they find in other countries that connect with the same value. Like, say, for example, in my school, I did an activity where our students had to think about the celebration of Pongal and connect it with another festival that is done in a different country. And they were easily able to connect it to the Thanksgiving celebration and about how Thanksgiving is also about being thankful to people about what they have in their life, the people they have in their life. And as you see, this we can do this as a speaking activity, we can do this even as a writing activity. English skill is also tapped, and we have a target reached, which is to make sure that we have the global connect tapped in as well, right? Now, as I always say, global thinking is not a subject, it is more of a lens. Now, when we call it a lens, we just ask them to look at it from this perspective. And with intentional prompts, every English task becomes a window into empathy, equity, and action. Now I'm going to ask your fingers to work, because you are going to be telling me how this lens can be used in your classroom. Right? How will you use this lens? Like in your current English lesson, have you had this chance of using an activity, altering an activity to integrate global thinking into it? Or how can you tweak a usual task, like maybe a letter or a dialogue, or it could be a speech to include empathy or real world connections? I am going to look into some of the chats and let's see. Okay. I can see a lot of comparing Eid to Christmas. I see that as a chat, and that's amazing way to look at it. Two celebrations integrated, wonderful. We can give real world connections. Absolutely true with letters. Yes, we can do that as well. And let me see. Okay, we can integrate people to talk about peace and justice into our sessions. All right, amazing. Okay, we can ask the students to make some posters about global thinking topics. We can ask the students to talk about global warming. Yes, absolutely. We can use dialogue techniques to talk about how they care about the environment. A lot of amazing ideas are coming in through the chat. So I'm just going to quickly take some time to share that so everybody gets a hang of that. And I'm really sorry I'm not able to read through all the chats in the chat box. It's just moving so quick. All right. Okay. And nice. We can have some discussions. Yes, discussions and debates, stories. Yes, we can talk about respect towards everybody. All right. Dialogues where students are bringing in different perspectives, where they bring in values from their beliefs. Great. Amazing. We can provide students with perspective and look at different culture about what similarities and differences that we have. We can give them playground scenarios. I absolutely love this idea. And it's basically you can take them out to the ground as well, and you can ask them to, during their playing sessions, how can they communicate better, right? That can also be brought in tapping English and global thinking because it's a respectful communication. Okay, we can bring in cultural awareness. Yes, great. We can create pictures, and we can ask the students to relate to the global issue, and we can ask the other partner to guess the problem and discuss it together in detail. I think this is also an amazing idea. We can show a picture to the students which is relevant to a global issue and ask everybody to guess what the problem is or what could be the cause and consequence of the problem, and they can discuss it together where they look at it from different perspectives. Absolutely. These are some amazing ideas that I see in the chat, and it's really lovely to see all of this. Okay, there's another comment. Bring a cultural artifact to class and share. If you can get your hand on some cultural active artifact where you show them the prop, they will feel too excited to see and understand what they are looking at, and they would want to understand it more. Amazing. Right? We can ask them to collect information about a certain problem. They can do their news analysis. Works well. Okay, we can make them write letters to their pen pals. That would also be a great way of improving their communication and also to learn about different cultures. All right. They can perform a drama activity. They can put a whole theater into action. And that is an absolutely great way of looking at it. They will be tapping in respectful communication, teamwork, and whatnot. I saw somebody posting open mic, and that is also an absolutely amazing idea. Open mic is basically what we do is we have the mic, we have the stage set up, and anybody who wants to come and share whatever they are thinking can do. This could include stand-up comedy, this could include a speech session, and this could also include singing. It can cover up anything, and by doing this we help our students to feel respected. We help our students to voice out what they are thinking, and group presentations is also another option given in the comment. Podcast, amazing. Trip to an old building and collect data to present their perspective. This is also a wonderful idea. You can if a field trip is possible, then we take them to a building that carries a lot of culture. We can ask them to research about that culture or the history, and then they can bring in their perspective to the table. Read journals about different travelers. That's absolutely a great idea. Now, I feel like you all have amazing ideas put together in the chat. And, I think putting all of this together, my ideas and your ideas, we will be able to create a very global conscious bunch of students, because that is very, very important. Whatever we do, we let our students to understand that we are living together in a shared world. We call this a global village because everybody is dependent on another person. And we allow the students to be respectful and also be mindful of whatever they are doing. And these are my references. I'm just going to leave the slide for a few seconds for you to have a look at it and use that as your own references as well if you want to go back and have a look at it. So I will leave this here for a minute, and then I will move on to take some questions. All right. I hope you were able to have a look at my references as well. And with this, I am going to wind up and we will be moving on to questions. Soma, is it okay that we take some questions after this?
Sure, Sherly, sure.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Can I stop sharing the screen?
Uh, yes, you can. No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shirley, for such an amazing and engaging presentation. I really liked the way, you shared a lot of creative activities that it's not only for any particular students, but all for the different level of students you could share. And definitely, I guess the audiences, you let our participants to use the fingers and they were so quickly moving in the chats. I could
Yes.
find a lot of scrolling of the chats. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Shirley. Now it's already that we are moving to our question and answer, and I have few questions here. So let's go to the question and answer.
Yes. We shall.
Okay, so let me begin with the first question. It's from Mark. Uh, he has mentioned, how can English teachers balance fostering global citizenship with respecting and preserving local, cultural, and linguistic identities?
All right. I think this is a wonderful question in the first place. So, when we talk about local languages, let's say, for example, my local language is Tamil, right? So, one interesting activity is where we can allow the students to draw grammatic parallels between our mother tongue, our local language, with English. By that way, students will be able to respect both the languages and see similarities in both the languages. So I would say translation and grammatical comparisons would be the beautiful ways of integrating both the languages. So as I was telling you, translation is another one. We can start off by giving one-liners where students translate it to English, or one-liners in English where students translate it to their local language, and we can slowly move on to passages. I think that would help out great.
Yeah, yeah, that would be perfect, I think. So I do have another question. Like, do you think English teachers they have special responsibility in promoting intercultural understanding?
Okay, so I would say yes, but I would
Oh,
also say it is the responsibility of all the teachers to be
okay.
mindful of integrating global thinking into whatever subject they teach. I would say
Mhm,
for English teachers it is even more easier because
mhm,
because we are going into topics like speaking and
mhm,
reading, where
mhm.
integrating global thinking is easier for us because we can change the passage into something that
Right,
taps
right.
global citizenship, it taps global
Exactly.
thinking.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's all even the responsibility of everyone. And definitely English, it has opened the doors to global awareness as well. I think now I just came to
Yes.
know through your presentation. So now let's move to another question. So it's from Jainab. So he has mentioned, is it advisable to adapt activities and skills designed for one age group with another age group? What do you say?
I will quickly repeat your question to see if I've understood it right. Is it
Mhm.
okay to adapt one age group's activity into another grade age group's
Right,
activity? Did
right.
I? All
Yes.
right.
Yes,
So
yes.
what I think I should also say this. My activities, I just tagged them into primary, pre-primary
Mhm.
based on the complexity of the activity. Now, the
Mhm.
teacher can take ownership of these activities and say,
Mhm.
this activity seems like doable for my class. All I have to
Mhm.
do is just maybe change the prompt or change the way I
Mhm.
present this activity, and they
Mhm.
can do it for a secondary student as well. Like, for example, I did the kindness cloud for
Mhm.
primary kids, right? We can,
Right, right.
pre-primary kids, we can just quickly
Mhm.
make that into a kindness letter for a secondary child. They just have to write
Mhm.
something nice about a teacher or a peer,
Mhm.
and that works as well, right? So it all depends
Mhm.
on the teacher's way of looking at the activity.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that he got his answer. Now, moving to next question is from Padam Nepal. So he has mentioned while teaching a story, yeah, it's exactly that we can use the way that you have presented. But what about when we are doing any type of essays, articles, or news? So he wants some kind of suggestions in that one.
I think when we're using articles, what we can do is we can ask the student to draw parallels between two
Mm,
or more news articles about what is
okay.
happening in a
Mm-hmm.
specific country, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
the same issue present in another country and how they are looking at it. So this again
Mm-hmm.
opens up perspectives. When it's regarding essays, how we can tap
Mm-hmm.
global thinking is that the prompt in itself can be something that taps their global citizenship skill. Like how, just like how I said, right? How can I, what can I do to make the world a better place for people?
Mm-hmm.
Something like this would work out for essay prompts. If it's going to be a reading on essays, there are so many people who have written about global thinking with with an amazing English structure, right? So when we give those essays to read, they learn
Mm-hmm.
English as well, and they also understand the perspective that taps their global thinking. So I think that should work out that way.
Yeah, that will work out. So I have also another interesting question. It's from Jana too, if I'm sorry if I just pronounce it well. So the question is, how can we influence introvert or special students to connect them to the global issues? I think this is very interesting question.
This is a very interesting question, but also something very difficult to
Right, right.
answer. So, opening up the introverts is something that is very, very difficult. And I
Mhm,
think here differentiated task comes into the picture. We cannot give them the same prompt that we're giving to the rest of the
mhm,
class. So
mhm,
they kind of require a specific attention to tap their
mhm,
critical thinking skill.
mhm,
But what we
mhm,
can do is, one thing is we can talk to them about people who do not voice out about their own opinion. By that way, they will
mhm.
be able to relate with it because they also don't voice out as quickly as others do. That
Exactly.
is
You're
one thing
right.
that we can do. The second can be student specific. Like say for
Mhm,
example, I am an introvert, but I'm not an
mhm,
introvert. I'm just giving it as an example. I could be an introvert who loves music. The teacher should
mhm,
be able to understand that and talk about music. Like
mhm,
slowly the conversation will build up, and later on I can give that student a reading passage about music and then talk
mhm.
about music, and the student will slowly open up and the perspectives can be quickly brought into the picture, I think.
Exactly. Like even the teachers, they need to have some kind of connections, right? With such
Yes.
type of students. Yeah.
Yes,
If they
that
are
becomes a
connected, they
mandate.
can, exactly. So if they are connected, they can just link about the global awareness to them as well by different
Yes.
means. So that's very wonderful insights of yours. Now I do have another question. It's from Safkat. So he wants to have your opinion on like, is what about talking on ecological citizenship in ELT? So can you give your opinion on this ecological citizenship.
Ecological citizenship.
Right.
All right. Ecological citizenship is something we are talking about for
Mm-hmm.
a while now, I think, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
global warming. But then
Mm-hmm.
the only thing is we still haven't gotten a little bit deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is responsible consumption contributing to a good
Mm-hmm.
ecological environment? Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we tend to lose that connect, right? I switch
Mm-hmm.
off my light here, it is allowing nature to be preserved for a longer while. But how
Mm-hmm.
is that happening? People are not finding that, students are not able to quickly relate with it. So I think that gap needs to be addressed, and we should allow the students to understand that something very small that I do today is making
Mm-hmm.
the ecology a better place tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be my opinion. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, exactly. So that's very wonderful answer. So even there are so many questions in Q&As and here. So the next question is like, even it might be with different South Asian countries as well. So what Saima has mentioned, like even teacher, they have a kind of pressure about completing the syllabus, right? So how the teacher can bring the connection of global citizenship into the syllabus? Like there can be some time, a lot of pressure at the end of the term. So what do you say?
Yes, this takes me back to my last set of slides where I said, it's not about us preparing a separate syllabus or a
Mhm,
separate book in itself.
mhm,
Wherever
mhm,
we have the liberty of coming up with our own activities, coming up with our own prompts,
mhm,
then that is where we bring in these global citizenship thought process into it. Like, say,
mhm,
the syllabus is to cover speaking at this specific range, right? Say, speaking for 3 minutes. Then what we do is, instead of giving them a simple prompt that is asking them to
mhm,
talk about their life, which is also a good prompt, we can slowly
mhm.
integrate according to their grade level, to talk about something that is going to make a better contribution to the global society, right?
Right, right.
So it's not about compromising the syllabus, it's just about making minor
Mm.
tweaks into whatever we're doing.
Yeah, so they can use such kind of techniques to just integrate global citizenship in that
Yes,
syllabus, right? So
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
exactly. So even I do have another question, like, uh, can global citizenship be taught explicitly, or it is something that is to be experienced,
Can it be taught explicitly, or is it something to be
to be
experienced?
experienced?
I have to say yes for the first and yes for the second as well. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be taught explicitly, but it also has to be experienced. Like,
Mm-hmm.
taught explicitly, because sometimes students are not aware of what is global citizenship. Sometimes we are just blinded by what I have today and what I want tomorrow. And we're
Mm-hmm.
not really thinking of what should I do for the world to be a better place. We are a part of
Mm-hmm.
this whole world is a thought that has to be explicitly put into our mindset. To be experienced is once we start living this lifestyle of
Mm-hmm.
integrating global thinking, that's a completely different lifestyle that will make us feel good about whatever we are doing. So
Mm-hmm.
when we experience it, the next few steps are going to make us absolutely happy. Not the few steps, the next steps in
Mm-hmm.
itself will make us absolutely happy. So it's a yes to both, I would say.
Yeah, yes to both. Okay, that's great. So even I can see the question here, like, could you suggest some specific strategies to foster global thinking skill on struggling students or those who are with low proficiency? Do you suggest some specific strategies for such students?
I think if they are struggling students, the usual trick that I do is for struggling students, as I said, it's a differentiated task. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
senior student, then they get to work on this. If they are a senior secondary student, they get to work
Mm-hmm.
on an activity that is tagged for secondary students
Mm-hmm.
or lower secondary student, and that's how we kind of slowly help them progress into the secondary grade, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
activity intensity can be slightly
Mhm.
disintegrated and modified a little bit to adapt to
Mhm.
the struggling learners. But I think for
Yeah.
thought process, it's going to be the same for struggling or well-doing student with regards to the
Mhm.
language proficiency. So
Mhm.
the thought should be the same. The activities can be different, is what I would say.
Yeah. So even as per the proficiency of the student, the activities shall be designed, right?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
great.
Again, I do have another question. So, how to adopt global citizenship thinking carefully by avoiding these values?
Soma, would you mind repeating the question? Because
How to adopt global citizenship thinking carefully by avoiding these values?
by including these values, right? So
Yeah,
what?
he has mentioned avoiding. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, to integrate these global thinking skill by
Mm-hmm.
including these values, like you don't, by avoiding these values, meaning not necessarily calling it out, probably.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily have to call it out, call out these values as such. We can just slowly put it together and they themselves will understand that, okay, yeah, this is something this is about respect and this is about
Mm-hmm.
me speaking up. Probably they will not be able to come up with that term as such, but they will still understand that, this is making me a better person. By the end of the day, global thinking is all about me being a better person, me doing good to the society, and me being
Mm-hmm.
mindful of whatever I am doing. And as teachers, we're helping the students to do that in a better way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, like sometime, what I also wonder that even global citizenship has been one of the important core skills in this 21st century. So, how sensitive is this to apply inside the classroom?
That is a very, very good question, Soma, because
Mm,
sensitivity is something that we have to be looking at because global
exactly.
thinking starts with a simple value like responsibility and goes
Mm-hmm.
on to an integrated, very complicated topic like, inclusivity,
Mm-hmm.
diversity, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about diversity to a pre-primary or a primary child, they would
Mm-hmm.
probably not understand. For them, the only
Mm-hmm.
language we can talk is respect. We can tell them that
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be respected. That is where we have
Mm-hmm.
to stop. For a
Mm-hmm.
primary student, we cannot talk about diversity and inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
However, for a secondary student, words and vocabulary like diversity, inclusivity becomes more
Mm-hmm.
appropriate because there
Mm-hmm.
they understand that everybody comes from different society, comes from different facilities, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be treated equal there. So I
Yeah.
think sensitivity is something very, very important on which
Mm-hmm.
value we are taking to which grade student, because their understanding is also very, very important. We cannot be, pushing a secondary value to a primary
Mm-hmm.
child. That would make
Okay.
it complex for them.
Okay. So, from your answer, what I can conclude myself that global citizenship, it values diversity and inclusiveness, and also a small action can create a global impact. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
Can I say like
absolutely.
that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely correct. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that it also has to be age appropriate, is
Mm-hmm.
what I added.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree on that one. So
Yes.
now I do have another question. Uh, it's from the chat. So, what pedagogical approaches in English education are most effective in promoting global citizenship? Can you just
Uh,
suggest few approaches?
Pedagogical approaches, when
Mm,
it comes to talking about it, I would first go ahead with critical pedagogy, like where
mm-hmm,
we allow our students to think critically. We also
mm-hmm,
can go with project-based teaching and task-based teaching, where we give them tasks or
mm-hmm,
projects where they have to work together in a group, because that
mm-hmm,
will definitely help the students out big time. Inquiry
mm-hmm,
based learning works perfectly for global thinking because we allow the
mm-hmm,
students to question, right? When you
mm-hmm,
ask better questions, you think different, right? So inquiry based learning also helps out big time. Digital literacy works out as well because they, with regards to English, they go back to the internet for a lot of reasons, and that will also help them out big time. So yes.
yeah. That's clear insight, I think. And many questions are coming, but we are very, I will be taking only the last question now.
Okay.
So it's about the digital literacy, okay? So
Okay.
the question is how we can just relate the digital tools when we are just teaching English to integrate the global citizenship.
See, right now, like earlier, we had to sit down, integrate global thinking into the activity that we had. Right now, that is not we have to be, that is not what we are expected to do. All we have to do, we have
Mhm.
artificial intelligence at the tip of our finger, and all we have to do is, I have planned this activity. I want this global thinking skill to be integrated. Can you modify this activity? It's is a prompt as simple as this. But then what happens is we have to be careful to choose the right activity. Now, what AI gives us might not every activity that is given out in AI will work out. Right? We know our students, we know what we're doing, we know what is ethical, and we know what is right. And therefore, it's very,
Mhm.
very important for us to cross check and choose the right one. You know, even if we know to use AI, but we don't know how to choose the right activity, then there's no point in us using AI to make our activities.
Yeah, thank you, Shirley, for just
Thank you.
responding every question that I have asked, and thank you for
Thank
such
you
a
so much.
wonderful, that your insightful thoughts on those things. And I'll also like to thank all the audience for your very active participation here. Definitely, I guess that the tips and the insight that Shirley she has shared will be implemented with you. So now I'll just want to, we are at the end of the session. Now I just want to quickly say about the feedback link. Here in this screen, you can find the feedback link. You can just click on the feedback link, and as soon as you submit the feedback, then you will get the link to download your certificate. But that certificate can be edited only through the desktop and computer. Okay, so this is the information. Let me also inform you that even we have another session within the 30 minutes. So in that session, we'll be talking about The Heart of Classroom by Teresa Bestwick. So please, everybody join us within 30 minutes, and we want your active participation in that also. So have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.